Welcome to another episode of the Financial Armor Show. My name is Jose Rodriguez, investment advisor at Cooper Financial Investments, and your host for today. As always, I want to introduce you to my amazing co-host, Tony Short. How's it going?
Well, it's going good, but Jose, amazing might be a little too over the top. I don't know if anyone's going to believe that, but yes, it's going well. In fact, I had a great weekend, Jose. Got a lot done. The weather was pretty good. My wife, for her birthday, wanted to have all the kids home because all our kids are either at college or moved, grown up and have significant others. So they all came home, and we went together to an apple orchard and picked apples, and then went back home and made apple crisp and this other great apple dessert. It was fantastic. So,
oh man, I wish that we had some of that over here in Arizona. Believe it or not, it's October now, and it was 110 degrees yesterday. And
ouch. That's all I can say. Yeah, I
and
think I saw the temp on the game. I think was it the Cardinals who were playing. All I know is I saw a thermometer they showed, and it was 110 degrees.
oh man, I was out all day yesterday. It was my mom's birthday,
Oh,
and
wow.
if she's 61.
Oh,
Uh,
I don't know if she'd like you telling her age on the show.
well,
Tell
she's been part of the show as far as I talk about her a lot in her
she
retirement
doesn't look a
journey.
day over 50.
Oh, actually, she looks more like 40. She gets out of
Yeah.
that, but it's because she's invested a lot of time, and money in
She takes care of
products.
herself, and
Yes,
she takes care of herself. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But over here in Arizona, and if anybody is listening from out of town or has never been to Tempe Marketplace in Arizona, it's a mall that is an outside mall. And there's a couple of these out here in Arizona, and I don't
Yeah.
know who really thought of this layout, given that for 7-8 months out of the year here in
That's where they
Arizona,
should have built the Mall of America, right? So you can
right?
be inside in the air conditioning.
Man. So I was walking around pretty much all day in Tempe
Oh,
Marketplace in this 110
oh,
degree weather. They do the steamer or I don't know what you call
the
them,
mist, the
misters.
cool mist. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. And it
Walk
just,
through those
I mean, they don't really help that a whole lot, but
for
did some
2
shopping
seconds.
for
Your
her.
face feels cooler when the water hits it, and then
Exactly.
it evaporates immediately, and you're hot again.
Yes. But it was really fun and got to do some shopping for her, and I got her a little bracelet from Pandora.
Oh,
And
those are nice.
yes,
Wow.
I walked in
Wow.
there and I didn't know what the price tag was like until she picked everything she wanted.
Oh my goodness.
It's really funny where I've gotten to this age or stage in my life where the parents become the children,
Yes.
and that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
And
I'm there too. Believe I've been there for a little longer than you have. In
I'm
fact,
getting there.
now I'm really taking care of my parents. I mean, I have to take care of them a lot. But sounds like after the Pandora bracelet with all the accessories, you're gonna need to hit up Brad for a raise. Brad Cooper, if you're listening, you're gonna have to up what you're giving to Jose. He's got to cover that bracelet for his
Hey,
mom.
this pretty face for this podcast is not cheap.
That's true. That's true. He's yeah, he owes you. Yeah. I mean, you're just here for the eye candy. We know that.
Exactly.
No, nope. You've got the brains, Jose. I've got the looks. Oh, wait,
Right.
no. I've got neither. What's going on? Oh,
Uh,
anyway, you've got both. That's good. In fact, you and I just spent time together. We
yes.
went to this great financial conference
Yes.
called and it was called Elite Advisors Forum, and it's some of the top advisors in the country get together
Yes.
and talk about the investment world, the stock market, hear from some key speakers in the US.
Yes.
These are people who are featured on Fox Business News, CNBC, and you also get to see them speak and compare notes with other
Mhm.
advisors. So you were at this. How was that? Did you enjoy
It
it?
was amazing. It was my first one for me, and or really anything like it. It's almost like you walk down Wall Street and all the big names were there.
Yeah, it's
Invesco,
crazy.
BlackRock,
Yep.
Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan.
Yep.
all these great speakers, and me being a numbers nerd, uh, they were putting graphs and dot plots and talking about
I saw you
percentages.
sitting yeah, you were really rapt. I was watching
Yeah,
from the back of the room going, "Wow, okay, Jose's paying attention."
this is my
It's
my
your wheelhouse.
forte. This is
Yeah,
my
that's
wheelhouse. I graduate. I did some research. I did some uh, research at Arizona State
yep.
for because my background is in economics. So this was my forte. This is what I like to see. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of people like to talk about it. It's a little too
Right.
boring for folks. But
Heady. It gets a little heady and numbers and yeah,
yep.
yeah. Yeah, like me, I'm just here to ask questions of you. I was told there would be no math. That's why you're here, Jose. And that's what I always tell Brad too. Now, let's jump into our topic for today. And you said the title of our show today is "Should I Go Back to Work?" I assume we're talking about people who retire and then either realize for the money or for whatever
Mhm.
reason they may need to go back to work or they might want to. It might not be a need thing, it might be a want, right? Is
Mhm.
that what you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah, it's essentially the concept of unretiring.
Oh,
And,
okay.
it's, and I've seen it happen a lot. My mom, um, I guess her retirement lasted maybe a week or 2. And
Oh,
then
wow.
but not for any bad reasons. There's some people that and I'm gonna go through everything here, but, not everyone unretires for a bad thing or for not
Mhm.
necessarily for, the money per se. Even just last week, I think I talked to 3 people that are, in the unretirement phase, where they're probably in their mid 70s, uh, and they just want something new. And it's living through them and them experiencing unretirement is quite eye opening, and that's what kind of brought us into this topic. But uh, the biggest example, and I bring her up on the show all the time, my mom. Like I said, she's 61. Thankfully, she got to retire, and she has a really good pension from an oil company. So it's not she doesn't need to do anything, but she's been working since she was I think she was 9 when she first
Wow.
started working,
Wow. Yeah.
and it has never stopped. And she just
Wow.
doesn't feel like there is a whole what is she gonna do with herself? Essentially, that's pretty much the
Yeah, a
conversation.
lot of people have that problem. A lot of people retire and a lot of people make the mistake of quitting their job,
Too
retiring,
early.
and
Yep.
then realizing that, right? That
Yes.
they
Right. And
they
figuring
should have
out
just kept
when
working.
figuring out when to retire, and this is all part of the conversations we have with the clients as far as when planning for retirement, planning the aftermath. We always plan for everyone really just thinks about the day of, okay, when the date that I'm gonna stop working. And then don't really think about the day after, the week after, the month after, year after, right? As far as what their life would look like. Um, and the way I typically position this conversation, which is actually a really fun conversation to have for pre-retirees, is walk me through what your day would look like the day after you retire. And a lot of people they just don't know. They just think about, "Oh, I've been saving. I want to save." Uh, because I know I don't wanna run out of money during retirement, but I never really thought about what am I
Yeah.
gonna do with my
Yeah.
free time? Uh,
You have to have a purpose too, and you'll stay healthier if you have a purpose,
exactly,
right?
that mental stimulation from picking up a hobby, picking up something, or people depending on you
Yeah.
is also drives you to do things and just keep your mind busy. That's why my mom, is, not retiring. That's essentially she's just gonna work for Walmart. It's a very easy job, and she likes it. She interacts with people. Uh, she it's very easy on her as far as physically. She doesn't need to do a whole lot. She just walks around and folds clothes and stock shelves. But she likes the interaction. People come up to her and ask her, oh, where's this? And she likes to walk them to the aisle that it's at, and it just keeps her busy, gives her exercise, because Walmarts are not small. So she gets her steps in, and she gets the social interaction by talking to people.
Yeah, yeah, that's great, and you have to have social. I'm glad you mentioned social interaction, because it's one thing to have a purpose in retirement or something to do, and it also should involve that personal interaction, and a lot of times, most of us get most of our personal interaction at work, right? I mean,
Right.
that's where we get most of that. And I mean, obviously, a lot of folks retire and they have a family. But when you retire, your family might not necessarily retire, and they might already have activities they're involved in. So when you retire, you need to have a plan and a purpose. And I know
Hmm.
that's something, not just the income planning, but that's something you have gone over with clients and can help
Hmm.
them with. But you really, there are a lot of reasons people might have to unretire or get a job in retirement or want to.
Right.
There's difference. There's have to,
Hmm.
need to, and want to. Right?
Right.
You might need to do it. You might want to do it, and so it depends which it is, and you might wanna, you might need to, and you might have to, right, for
Right.
money purposes.
Hmm. Right. And if you have to do it for money purposes, or um, there is some things that you need to look out for, and again, that's where we come in as the subject matter expert, and point out those things that you need to look out for or think about if you are, let's say, taking income in from a part-time job, working 15 hours a week, or whatever it may be. How will that income that you get from that job affect your social security? Now,
Right.
if you if you work before you start taking social security, I'm sorry, your full retirement age, which for most people is 66, 67. um it could change your benefit, your social security benefit. And it all comes down to an income threshold, which it depends on how much you work, and this is where the conversation is. If you need to um unretire for the income, this is where it could affect you, because you will want to make a certain amount of money to actually maintain your lifestyle. Um, According to the guidelines from the Social Security Administration, it's 90. If you make, for any dollar that you make after $19,560, for every $2 that you make, you essentially give one up in your Social Security benefit.
Wow.
So that's something to think about.
So, yeah, that could really be a problem if you decide to retire, you file for Social Security, and then you go
Hmm.
back to work full time and you're making over, there's a limit to what you can make
Hmm.
before they start taking back or withholding your Social Security, right?
Exactly. They start changing it,
Yeah.
reducing the benefit, and that's something that uh, you need to consider. And that's where we come in. And this is things that people bring up during financial reviews. Let's say 1 year into retirement, they start having these thoughts of, man, I just need to go back to work.
Yeah.
This is not cutting. The income that I'm getting is just not cutting it. Uh, I need to go back to work. Okay, let's have that conversation. What are some options? Because, like I've mentioned in the past, in this show, is we have the privilege of being exposed to so many people that are in the same situation that you may be in, as a client that is in retirement. So
Sure.
don't be afraid, listeners. Don't be afraid to ask questions that might be not be related to finances. Sometimes just life questions, because we get to live life through our clients, and we might already have gone through the same situation that you think that you're going through with somebody else, and we have
Yeah.
some tips, some wisdom that I can share just because I lived it through another client.
Sure. And that's yeah, your experiences there. You guys go through the retirement process with people every single day,
Right.
whereas the rest of us are only going to retire once,
Hmm.
hopefully, right? That's why we're talking about this today.
Yep.
But I find that interesting, and I know especially that you found, and I've had this conversation with Brad before there at Cooper Financial, is that people will come to you already in retirement who haven't worked with you. They're not current clients, but they come to you in this situation.
Hmm.
Like, I'm running out of money. I think I have to go to back to work. Is there any advice you can give me on my retirement plan? And if they had come to you sooner during their
Hmm.
working years and got a plan in place, they probably would not be in that situation. I mean, there are black swan and life events that happen, so it's happened to, it can still happen. It may have happened to some of your clients in the past where they had a big financial emergency in their family, and so they had to use some of their money or
Hmm.
healthcare or long-term care costs. So that's why they have to go back to work. But I know the plans you put together now for people, for our listeners and viewers out there who are not yet retired, it
Hmm.
is so important to work with a financial professional, trusted professionals like yourselves, you and Brad, and the team there at Cooper Financial, so you can have a plan in place that includes things like, medical costs in retirement,
Right.
inflation. You don't have to let inflation or high medical bills derail your retirement if you've got a solid written plan in place and you're saving for that and planning for that, right?
Right, and that's something that we pride ourselves a lot in, that we take into account things that are not necessarily common, that most people in our industry talk about, like healthcare planning, Medicare planning, anything that might get in the way of someone's retirement. We've
Sure.
all seen it. Well, one from experience, we've seen it that it does get in the way. So we are proactive and talk to
Yep.
clients about um, those kinds of issues that may come up. So we
Sure.
plan for them. So when that moment comes, they're not tipped off by it, or sweeps the legs from under them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They're
Um,
not caught by surprise with that, right?
Right, and one of the things that, and this is kind of used in the investment world, we're not trying to predict when you're gonna, well, in the big picture, when the market is gonna go down. We're not trying to predict that because we can't.
Yeah.
We're
Nobody
not
has a crystal ball. You
right.
can't time
We
the
don't have the
market.
crystal ball to time that. We don't have the crystal ball to know when you're going to need long-term care, when something's gonna get diagnosed, when someone's gonna pass away prematurely. Whenever, we don't know any of these things, but what we can do is plan, so we eliminate the element of surprise,
Right.
and that's where I think we shine with
And
the
make
planning that we do.
adjustments along the way, right?
Exactly.
Because if you, like you were talking about at the beginning of the show, Jose, if somebody out there has to, you want to go back to work because you want to,
Hmm.
not because you have to. I mean, that's the bottom line, right?
Hmm.
Because I know people who are like bored, like we were talking about, either they're bored or they need a purpose or they miss it. And the great thing about going back to work in retirement, you don't have to go back to the old job you had. You don't
Hmm.
have to necessarily do that. You have a little more freedom, hopefully. And if it's just for a little extra money, a lot of times you can find part time work in a field that you're passionate about. Maybe you can get a job at the golf course,
Hmm.
or maybe you can get a job at the part time job at the library. Or I know a guy who just retired, but he works all the sporting events at the big arenas. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
He works all the college games or all the concerts and all the events. And that way he gets to stand there and see him, but he just, he's an usher or a ticket taker, and that works out well for him. So
Yeah.
I see a lot of that at the games I go to. If I go to a major sporting event or a concert, a lot of the ushers and people like that are seniors, right?
Yep. Yep. And I actually have a very similar story, and within the story, it highlights some of the benefits, or some of the things that you could take advantage of when it comes to um, working or unretiring, let's say. Uh, you Because you start working, and it depends on if you're in a certain income threshold. Uh, but you are going to have access to Roth IRAs now. You can invest in Roth IRAs,
Ah,
and now
okay.
that 401ks have Roths that employers
Roth
might allow you,
401ks,
Roth
yeah.
401ks that the employer might allow you to put your paycheck in there. Because, for example, I have this client. He uh, really likes to smoke meat.
Oh, yeah, he has a
He
meat
act
smoker and
Yep, he likes
seasons
to,
and smokes his own meat.
right, and he has actually his
Has he
own.
shared any with you? That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
key.
He has his own brand. He sells these on the side as well.
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
Wow, he's really into it.
right.
So
So,
it's a side hustle,
yeah,
like
it's a
what we're
side
talking
hustle,
about.
but
Yeah,
it wasn't enough, right? So he wanted a little more, more something else to do.
sure.
So he applied to Lowe's, and he is your smoker salesman at Lowe's. And he's not
That's
really
awesome.
working because he needs to, but because he wants to, right?
Right,
Just to
and
keep
he
his
just
mind right,
wants
and he
the
talks about his hobby.
interaction,
Yeah.
something to do, talk to people about it because he knows about the grills and the
Oh, yeah.
smokers. That's a great example,
I
and
actually bought a smoker from him too.
you did look at you, he gotcha, huh?
Yeah.
He really does know his stuff if he can
Yes.
sell Jose a smoker. I love
Yes.
that.
But one of the one key thing about his story is that because he works for just because he wants to, not because he
Mhm.
needs to,
Right.
um, all of the income that he gets from working 15 hours a week, uh, he contributes fully into his Roth 401k.
Ah, that he's able to do that at Lowe's because they offer
Right.
that.
Right.
And now that if he didn't have that job in retirement, you can't contribute
Nope.
an IRA or a 401k or a
Correct.
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
Correct. And that's I think it's going to be it's just little things that you don't necessarily think about when unretiring or looking for a job after after you fully retire.
Yeah. I think it's more and more popular. I think more and
Mhm.
more people are doing it because people are living longer
Mhm.
and they retire, and everybody nowadays seems to have a side hustle. Everybody has a hobby and they turn their hobby into a they call it a gig economy or a side
Yeah,
hustle, right? I mean,
exactly.
and so that's kind of what we're talking about here today. But again, I want to reiterate, you don't want to have to work in retirement. You want to work if because you want to, right? You
Mhm.
want that to be the case. And so before we go here, Jose, let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you because like you said, chances are if they have a scenario they're dealing with, you've already experienced it. The staff there, Brad, yourself, others, this is what you guys do. And you've talked to so many people and so many clients about this. If our listeners have any questions, they're concerned about how they're going to fill their time in retirement, or they're in retirement and they're thinking about this, they want to talk to a financial professional first because you want to look at how it's going to affect your Social Security and other things. If you start making income from something, more of your Social Security could be taxed. I mean, there's so many.
Mhm.
Your Medicare situation could change. Your Medicare premiums could go up.
Right,
So
Irma, everything.
yeah, there's so much there. How can our listeners get a hold of you, Jose?
They can give us a call at 888-390-5277 and talk to Grace and hear her beautiful voice and schedule a complimentary consultation, free
Yep.
consultation. They can also go to our website, cooperfinancial.com, and also go in there and schedule an appointment with us.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a complimentary consultation, and like you say, the only cost is your time,
Yep.
and it's worth it. So that complimentary, no charge, no obligation consultation. Again, the number to call Cooper Financial 888-390-5277. That number again is 888-390-5277, or go to the Financial Armor Show.com. And Jose, great show today.
Thank you.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of the Financial Armor Show with our host, Jose Rodriguez.